Well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Squadrito,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Gross,
Here.
Hayes.
Here.
Lamp. Here. McDonald. Here. Wolver.
Good evening.
Shingles is excused. Thering.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So I see we have a new member since last month, so welcome to John Hayes to the Planning Commission. Glad to have you here. So we're officially at full capacity now. Next item is approval of the agenda. So you have tonight's agenda in front of you. Relatively short agenda, but are there any additions, any corrections, any concerns with tonight's agenda?
Move to approve. Support.
So motion by Olver, second by Gross to approve the agenda as prepared. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so our agenda is approved. Next item is the minutes. We last met October 15th, and so you have the October 15th minutes in front of you. Are there any concerns with the October 15th minutes?
Move to approve as presented. Support.
Okay, there's a motion by Olver, second by Gross to approve the minutes of October 15th as prepared. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the minutes are approved. Next item is the portion of the meeting where we have correspondence, board reports, and presentations. First item is Commissioner Thering, updates from Board of Trustees.
Thank you. On our 10/23 meeting, we had our first reading of the zoning ordinance and amendments for the final site plan, which we obviously approved that first reading. The other thing we did was we had the board approve the recommended 2025 budget, which is a little bit earlier than what we have done in the past few years, almost by design, because having a new board coming in, although we can make changes even after it's been approved, the current board has a better understanding in that respect of the board in the past year and the following year. So we as a board decided that if we could, we would go ahead and approve that 2025 budget if it was possible, and it ended up being possible. So that was something positive. I don't know if any of you saw some articles out and about in regards to the Mackinac Center, which is a commentary. I would recommend, if you're interested, to listen to our 10/23 meeting more in the beginning. There is comments that were made from the township's perspective, and I think it's worthwhile listen to if you have time. On our 11/13 meeting, of course, we appointed Mr. Hayes to the Planning Commission. And we held the second reading and the adoption of the zoning ordinance amendments to the final site plans. And that's all I have for you.
Okay. Any questions for Commissioner Thering from commissioners on Board of Trustees related matters? What is, you have said there's, including the officers, there's 7 members of the of the Board of Trustees, how many are changing?
2,
Okay, that's what I thought.
2, 3.
Three?
Plus the treasurer.
Oh, yes, the treasurer.
Okay,
and-
so 3 out of
Yep,
7.
2 trustees.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see, next item is Commissioner McDonald, updates from ZBA. They don't meet every month, so I don't know if there's anything to report or not.
I have yet the pleasure.
Okay,
But as soon as I do, you'll be the first to know.
well, once you get the pleasure, it's a great pleasure from what I understand.
Yeah.
Although I haven't been there myself.
Well, hopefully I get to experience it at least once.
Okay. Next item is, you always have in your packet, as of the last year or so, the Community and Economic Development Monthly Report, which is really a very thorough report on Township staff activity over the past month, as well as reports on what we're doing and other boards are doing. So we always take a few moments and let commissioners ask if they have any questions on the monthly report.
I had a question about the Red Lobster in the Indian Hills Shopping Center. I heard that Red Lobsters are going out of business. Do you know if ours is?
I have not heard anything related to our Red Lobster.
Okay,
At this point, no news, hopefully it's good news.
okay.
They have put some new signs out front saying we're open, so I
Oh, they
think
have?
others
Okay.
have been wondering too. Yeah.
I've noticed that.
Well, they'll be getting, relatively soon, I guess, they'll be getting some new dining options further down Bluegrass from what our little packet here indicates. Any other questions on the monthly report?
Any comments on the solar meeting? There's a, met with the development team planning direct solar.
So this is a project for what's called direct use solar in our ordinance space. Basically, so it's a private system to support a business. So that it's a fairly substantial project, but it's still a private project, not a utility scale solar project.
I myself always turn to the enforcement activities section first, just because I'm that type of guy. And number one, I noticed it was dominated by chickens again. But beyond that, I guess I was just going to ask, for want of a better term, the McGurk's property down at the corner of Lincoln and Broomfield, they've done some smoothing of the berms in the last month. Is that at all part of this, or is that just random activity?
Well, we have, as noted in the report, we have met with Mr. McGurk and his attorney a number of times over that project and looking for solutions. The work that we had a meeting, and the work that was done out there happened after that meeting. There was no agreement. There was no even discussion of the agreement as part of that meeting. But Mr. McGurk decided to make some changes to the site, but that was entirely his decision to do that.
Okay.
Just a comment on that, a couple months ago, we had a resident concerned about some of the open burning back there. And I think last week there was quite a smudge going, for what it's worth. Then I see that later on, considering the change in the ordinances, burning ordinances.
We've had that on the list for quite a long time. It's not related to his site. It's simply, there are some things we could do to update that ordinance. It's not been a high priority, which is why it kind of carries over from month to month. But it is definitely on the list of items.
I just saw that.
I don't want to belabor this, but what is the zoning of that property?
Zone residential.
Okay. So, and of course, that operation has been there, it was there when I moved into the township, so more than 30 years. If that were to attempt to be established today, I'm guessing in a residential, it would have to be a special use.
Well, the project what started there was an extraction operation, sand and gravel mining.
Hmm.
And that, as I understand it, started sometime in the 1960s, mid to late 60s, perhaps. There may have been some other activities there, but at least looking at the historical area photos, it just looks like farmland prior to that. And so that activity did predate our zoning ordinance. And so it became a legal non-conforming activity when our 1970 zoning ordinance was adopted. And it did continue on there, basically as a legal non-conforming activity for many years. Over time, the activities there have morphed into other things. There's still some I guess reclamation work that's going on over there, where that's basically fill from other construction sites that's being brought in to fill in the old holes from the mining operation. But there's definitely some other things going on there. That's really the subject of the ordinance enforcement activity.
Okay.
So I mean, there is no option in the residential district for what's going on there. There's no way to make that legal under the current zoning ordinance, and even under the older zoning ordinances. It was always a legal non-conforming activity, or in some cases, perhaps simply not legal at all.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on the monthly report? Okay, if not, we'll move on. So now, any other reports or correspondence or anything that commissioners have or staff have that the commission needs to be aware of? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. So next portion of the meeting is our first public comment. Towards the early part of our meetings, we have a public comment that is restricted to items that are not on the agenda. So folks who are here for agenda items, will take those up in turn. We have an unrestricted public comment towards the end of the meeting. This is on items that are not on tonight's agenda, so if any member of the public wishes to address the Planning Commission on any item that's not on tonight's agenda, you're welcome to do so at this time. We ask you to give us your name and address for the minutes, come to the podium, speak into the microphone, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Public comment is open at 7:12.
There's nobody online.
Okay, so we do have an online space for people to attend, but we don't have anyone in there tonight. And seeing none, we'll assume folks are here for other purposes. We'll go ahead and close that back up. As I mentioned, we'll have another public comment later in the meeting. So we're ready to move on to our new business items. The first item is a preliminary site plan application, 24-02. This is for a couple of new restaurants on East Bluegrass Road, west of Encore, in the Highway Business District. So we'll let Rodney introduce this first, then we'll hear from the applicants, and then we will move on to our consideration.
Well, thank you. I should have a copy of our report dated November the 8th. As was said, this is for a pair of restaurants and a couple of retail spaces as well. A project we proposed to on the south side of Bluegrass Road, basically between Bluegrass Road and Walmart. This would be towards the west end of that vacant land that's along that stretch of Bluegrass Road, so closer to the Indian Hills Shopping Center. This is an interesting project because two restaurants together, two drive-through restaurants together. There's a lot of creative work to put this site plan together. We had a number of conversations the past few months with the developers. They originally looked at a different site, and it was simply just a little too small to make it work out. So we're pleased that this site was able to work out for them. As I said, you have our report dated the 8th. I guess I'll say one more thing about the vacant land, just to orient you on that vacant land. Talk about the land basically between that's west of the Members First Credit Union, along the frontage of Bluegrass on the south side. We have the approved Valvoline oil change project, which is going to go in. They have a building permit, ready to start construction, but they haven't started yet. It's going to go in basically next to the Members First Credit Union. This site, as I said, will go into the west end of that vacant land. So Assuming this project is approved, assuming construction is completed, there will be a gap. There'll be a vacant, basically a vacant lot, essentially. It's going to look like a vacant lot. It's actually parts of 2 lots that will be left for one more development site along this stretch of road. I also note I had the opportunity to see a similar project put in by this same developer in Clio. If you're down in Clio, you can see a very similar one. That one doesn't have the retail spaces, though, as I recall.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
it has one retail and one office space.
Okay, but it's a very similar project, very nice site. So if you'd like to see what it will look like, stop by downstate and take a look at that. In our report, we have a number of items we noted that need to be addressed by the applicant. Although right off the bat, all these items are essentially housekeeping details. These are final site plan items that can easily be taken care of in the final plan. There's a few application items we note in our report about providing, in our application package, we have a hazardous substances form where they simply declare whether hazardous substances will be on the site, and then there's also a more detailed checklist that Eagle, Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy created that we use simply again to get some information about the proposal. Those forms were not provided with the application. We have actually one was provided tonight, they're easily items that can be provided with the final site plan. There's no concern about any of those substances or hazardous issues beyond the normal cleaning products that would be on any project like this. So those are just a few details that can easily be taken care of in the final site plan. We did note some easement items. They are proposing to complete the sidewalk section along parallel Bluegrass Road. Because of the narrowness of the existing Bluegrass Road right-of-way, they have to put the sidewalk outside the right-of-way, so there'll be an easement that will need to be provided to the township, simply to verify that that will be public sidewalk, and for maintenance purposes, that sort of thing, repairs. Similarly, they are proposing cross-access connections to the land on either side, and we ask for those cross-access easements to be recorded and get copies to be provided to the township. So those are all items that can be dealt with before building permit. We don't need them now. We don't even need them before final site plan approval, but we will need them before building permit can be issued. I mentioned earlier about the kind of a configuration of the land a little bit. They will be needing to do a land combination boundary adjustment application to move a parcel line for this project. So that's another item that doesn't need to be done for preliminary site plan, but will need to be done before building permit. The number 8 on our report is page 38 of your packet. Just make a comment about stormwater management. This site is part of the Union Commons shopping center development. There is a regional stormwater basin down at the south end of Encore Boulevard that serves the whole area, including this site. That they still need to get a stormwater permit from our township engineer and show that everything will function properly, adequate capacity, all that in the system, that sort of thing. The one interesting detail for this site that we didn't deal with in the Valvoline site is that there is a 50 or 50, I think 55 foot, if I recall, a 55-foot wide stormwater easement on the south of this end of this property. This is basically from that shared driveway going into Walmart north into the land. There's a 55-foot easement, simply stormwater easement. It is a private easement, so this is not something the township enforces. This is an easement that is controlled by the developer of the Union Commons project, which still maintains that stormwater system. It's a private stormwater system. In the case of Valvoline, in the case of the Members First Credit Union project, the development projects did not get into that easement. That was left as green space in both sites. In this site, they are proposing to put some significant improvements into that area. The trash dumpster enclosure, part of the parking and access drive, and some other elements will be in that easement. And so we just note in our report that they do need to address that from the perspective of the easement holder and kind of confirm that they have the right to put that development within that easement space. So it's a detail that can be addressed on the final site plan. It's not an ordinance issue, as far as we're concerned, that we don't have any, I mean, we have a very narrow setback back there, that they're not encroaching on in any way. So as far as ordinance enforcement, there's no problem, but we just simply want to be, have the documentation to show that they have addressed that private easement and whatever conditions apply to that.
Is this the one that's marked wide storm sewer, 75-inch wide storm sewer easement, or 75 foot maybe?
Well, it should be, I think it's 55 foot, but yes, the back half of the property, back quarter of the property.
Hmm.
Yeah. So as far as we're concerned, that can be addressed simply with notes on the site plan, perhaps a signed and notarized letter from the easement holder confirming that they have the right to be there. I think that basically covers the details I wanted to just mention. I would note at the end of the report, we simply recommended approval as presented because the details really are final site plan items. But the change that was mentioned by Trustee Faring, that the board did adopt the amendments that we held a hearing on and that you recommended for adoption to allow for administrative approval of final site plans in certain cases. As we're looking at this project, we realized that there would be value in recommending a couple of conditions. So those ended up in the motions, the draft motions. They were thought about this after the report was finished. If you recall the language of that ordinance amendment, what it says is that a final site plan that is determined by staff to be in full compliance, ready to be approved, that site plan can then be approved administratively. It does not need to come back to you for your action. One of the limiting factors in that language was that the zoning administrator, who would be an approving body in that circumstance, cannot attach conditions to a final site plan approval. And it's a very reasonable limitation. But what we'd like to do is to recommend to you tonight, if you are comfortable with approving the plan, the preliminary site plan. In the motions, one of the choices was to approve the conditions. We did add two conditions, and you'll see them there. They're basically the condition about the boundary adjustment application and the easement language being provided before a building permit is issued. That way the conditions are on the preliminary site plan, and the zoning administrator can simply enforce those conditions as the project moves forward, even if the plan does not need to come back to you for a final site plan approval. So our recommendation would be is to consider that language and those two conditions as part of any approval action. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any immediate questions for Rodney? He's obviously not going anywhere, but if you have one, you can ask it now. Okay, I don't think we have any right at the moment. Okay, so normally we'll follow our usual protocol, which is at this point we'll give the applicant an opportunity to say anything you'd like to say to us by way of, anything you want to draw our attention to, just anything you'd like to say, and then also stand for questions.
Good evening. My name's David McDade. I'm with Rourke Galt Architects, 10166 North Linden Road in Clio. And I've been the architect for Leo's and Big Chicken now for probably about 5 years, and we've done several. And thank you for the kind words about Clio. That was the first one I did with them, and it worked out well. I received the plan review comments earlier today, and I went through them, and I don't see any issues at all in some of the recommendations. A couple small changes we need to make. There are two items, maybe three. Two items definitely though that I would like to bring up. in regards to the drainage, my civil engineer, Flint Survey and Engineering, Kim Carlson, had contacted me. And yeah, we have that private easement that goes through, but he had noted that the drain actually ends at the credit union. And Valvoline has no intention of extending that drain. They're tying into Walmart, their drain. So we need to do the same thing. So on the drawings, we actually show a connection on the bottom left that is actually going to be outside of our property. And I understand that we're going to have to get an agreement with Walmart and provide probably a public utility easement for that in addition. So I just want to bring that up, that we're aware of that. He called me up, he just says, there's no way to tie in unless we go to Walmart. So, do a lot of shopping at Walmart coming up. Is there any concerns with that at all, or questions that? It's located only like 6 feet off our property line, so I don't think Walmart's gonna really have an issue with it. Because I think that all ties into that central anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, it all ties together. Basically, this is really an engineering issue. The engineers simply are going to have to their engineers are going to need to certify, and our engineers are going to need to agree that, and of course in this case Walmart is also would have to agree that the system will work as they proposed it. But it's all the same system. It all flows to the stormwater basin at the south end of Encore Boulevard.
I assume that line has the capacity to take that extra.
All that would be certified by the engineers.
Yeah, it'll have to be certified. My engineer has already told me, he's designed the system.
Yeah.
We're gonna make a couple of small adjustments. We're actually gonna add a couple of catch basins, but he says it does work.
So which properties that are currently like in the area are responsible for that private easement? You said it was a developer, but like.
So the original developer of the Union Commons project is still, the company is still controlling that system, and they still have some property for sale, able to develop within their area. So it is owned and managed by that developer.
Okay, so like does that include Walmart, or does that just include?
It does. Walmart, Menards, Kohl's, all of that.
That whole
area.
Okay, gotcha.
That's gotta be a big ditch.
So you think is Walmart will not have a problem for us to tie in to them?
I don't see why they would. I mean, if Valvoline is doing it, I don't know why they wouldn't.
They probably would prefer to have the water go underground than over the top.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the logic. I mean, that's simple farmer logic.
And we drain down to them
Yes.
right now anyway, so,
Yes.
yeah. I don't see them having an issue, but we will of course go through all the proper procedures with that.
So no process with Walmart,
Yeah.
they take forever.
Okay, and item number 2. Man, you people demand a lot of landscaping. Which, I'm saying, it beautifies the site, absolutely. One thing that was mentioned, along that roadway, yeah, that is really tight. We don't have a lot of green space there because of this right-of-way issue. And based on calculations with the width that we have along that front, we're required to have 9 large deciduous trees, maple, oak, and so forth. And that really made for a really tight site for us. And we're asking not to necessarily remove some of the trees, but if you would allow us to replace 3 of those larger deciduous trees with 3 ornamental trees. We're not asking to have trees reduced, just kind of making a change, because it just kind of helps open up the site a little bit. When I had those other 3, and the 3 that I show, if you've got the drawings in front of you on the landscape, page, S6, if you see where that, the vertical walkway is going out to the sidewalk, and you'll see 3 ornamental trees just to the right of that. You'll see a flowering dogwood, a mock orange, and a hawthorn. Those are the 3 trees that we are asking to replace from the large deciduous. And we're just kind of hoping that's something you could help us out a little bit with. These 3 right here. Yeah. See, and we're still keeping 6 of the large deciduous trees. We're kind of keeping them a little toward the corners on either side, and then it can kind of open up to the buildings a little better that way.
Is the concern increased visibility of the businesses, or is it room for the trees to thrive?
Great question, because we had the 2, and both of them, yes. One is definitely for the business too, because as those trees grow, that site gets covered up. But because that is so tight in there, I mean, with 3 more larger trees there, I mean, it's really going to be tight.
Okay.
Might be hard to keep those hardwoods alive too. I mean, just knowing how
With
trees
being
are.
so
That's
tight,
what I was saying.
yeah.
Need to be so
They
tight
might
in
not thrive
sidewalks
there.
and roads and they need root space.
Right. And if you have any years like this year, where they had did you have the massive acorns here?
We had a lot of drought.
Yeah, we had massive, and I don't want to see anything with acorns all over that public sidewalk either. That,
Really a lot landscaping. I mean, it makes it look good, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like it's gonna cover the building and it's not be able, people not even gonna be seeing it very good.
and actually replacing with something that's going to be able to bloom in the spring and, bring in a little more color in that. If you go to the Clio site at all, you'll see there's quite a bit of landscaping there too. It's a beautiful site.
Remind me again, that's part of our discretion or no?
So, Peter Gallant, our zoning administrator, reviewed the plans, and among those things, took a look at the landscaping. Landscaping is a final site plan item typically, but we review it if they put it on a preliminary plan. It was Peter's view that the project as proposed complied, but to be clear, and to be careful at this, you certainly have the ability to basically approve the modification as they proposed it, as you see it on the plan. And what that would be is section 10.7 of the zoning ordinance, which is the modification section. It gives you the ability to approve an alternative design that you feel still meets the intent and purposes of the section 10, the landscaping section of the ordinance.
Yeah.
Typically, I wish we'd known about the concern, because typically we simply recommend to the applicant that they put a note on the plan asking for that. But there's no reason why you could not make it one of your conditions of approval simply to acknowledge that they've replaced 3 large deciduous trees with 3 ornamental trees as depicted on the site plan, and accept that as a modification per section 10.7. One of the reasons why it might actually be, if you want to cite a reason for it, if you actually cite this issue with the road right-of-way, the front of the site is pretty tight because the bluegrass road right-of-way ends just a couple feet inside the curb, and what that means is it kind of squishes the front of the site a bit more than it might be otherwise, just visually. Trees need a fairly large canopy, and typically, although they're planted outside the right-of-way, the canopy might grow over the right-of-way as well. In this case, there's not as much room for that because of the very narrow nature of the right-of-way itself. So, but that could be a reason to approve that modification.
Yeah. Aren't we also doing 8-foot sidewalks out there?
Along the road, yes.
Along the road,
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, well, it sounds reasonable to me, but we'll let the other commissioners weigh in. Is that, does that, are those your comments, or do you have anything you'd like to add?
A couple more, just quick.
Yeah, please.
Kind of back to the landscaping, this is kind of from a personal, it has nothing to do with my client. Why don't you allow ginkgo biloba trees? It's on your list.
Will you say that again?
The ginkgo biloba trees,
Cigar trees.
they're not allowed. And I love them. And when I dropped the drawings off, I bet I saw 50 in the area. It was just a personal thing. If we slip some in.
They're considered the cigar tree with the big long pod.
No, they got really unique kind of trumpet kind of
Okay, I see what
leaves
you
to
get.
them. And then they're beautiful yellow in the
I think you're
fall.
thinking of catalpa trees.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
Don't they are beautiful trees, but don't they also drop like berries that have an awful odor?
Is there a reason why the ginkgo is on?
I know some places consider them invasive.
It does specify specifically female ginkgo trees, so it may be, like you said, due to the berries. If you had male onlys that couldn't pollinate and drop berries, that might be the reason. I'm just making a guess.
Yeah.
It was just a
strong smell like vomit, running cheese, rented butter.
Fair enough.
So if we didn't have a reason
I
before.
planted one just outside my house 3 years ago. We love it.
Yeah.
And it's good for you, ginkgo biloba. One back to serious question again. In regards to bike racks, based on our total occupancy of the buildings, we're required to have 17. I show 18. They come in basically racks of 3. I didn't see anywhere, but do the bike racks, do they have to be located right near the building? Can we exchange those? Can we move those out by any chance? And have a little more parking next to the building? Is there anything on that?
One thing I would say, the bicycle parking is something that was added to the zoning ordinance in 2020 when the current ordinance was adopted. It was added out of a recognition that this is a community that has a lot of pedestrians and bicyclists, being a college town. And this is an area where a whole lot of those pedestrians and bicyclists do come through. Although there's no sidewalk currently in front of this property, there's a whole lot of folks that walk across that frontage. And so there was really a need to ensure that folks that are getting to a site other than a car have facilities that are reasonable and convenient to the building. It's certainly the bicycle parking, as long as it meets the ordinance requirements, it can be adjusted in the location. But if we're talking about simply putting it at the back front end of the lot, or well away from the entrance, that's not the intent of the ordinance. The idea is that this should be as convenient as somebody in a car coming to the property.
Okay, we don't plan to do that. We don't plan on sticking into a corner. It says I know the ordinance, they have to be so far away from a parking space and a drive, and it was hard to do that in that front row. So if I could actually move them back to the next, where some of the double rows are, it would work out a lot better. So.
They'd also put the bike racks outside of the traffic flow though, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because it would be traffic flow coming straight through from the drive-through. Would the drive-through traffic then be cutting in front of the people that are dropping their bikes off before they can get into the store?
Yeah, I mean, the question is really pedestrian safety. Yeah, that's the issue. With putting the bike racks essentially in the middle of the parking lot, especially as you said around the drive-through lanes.
Well, if we had it where you see the 10 spaces, they'd be able to get over to the sidewalk without having to cross where the drive-through comes through.
Where it's showing here is that it's proposed change to where it is now according to the ordinance. Right, because right now they're placed right in front of one of the vacant.
Right, yeah, I plan on moving them from these locations. Probably out to where we show there's 10 parking spaces. It's a set of double fives. right next to that center island. See where there's a 10 with a circle? If we moved them there,
Fourplex light that's there?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that a seating area right there? What is that for? Or that's a light?
That's a light.
Okay, thank you. That makes way more sense.
So that would be sort of like an island that would extend out next to those trees?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I could see if it were, if a person would, who parked their bike there would immediately just walk over to that sidewalk and then into the buildings, that
Right.
seems probably like a reasonable alternative.
Okay.
My only concern would be just about people cutting around through the drive-through into that area where they'd be parking, you know? There's a lot of cycle coming for that, depending on which end it's on.
Well, I'm thinking for convenience, I would probably think that people coming out of the drive will continue to go straight and past that island before they would then make either a left and then an immediate right out of the site, or a right and go down to the access lane. I actually think that'd be a little safer out there too than right next to where the drive-through is, because the building also acts as kind of a shield right there.
I get what you're saying, because someone came over, say, from the Coney Island side across to where the parking is now for the bikes, they'd be a lot closer to that drive-through coming in without a blind side
Mhm.
right there.
So if you're comfortable in general with this idea, we can certainly work with the applicant to work out the details. And I don't disagree that location is directly across from the barrier-free parking. It's basically a straight shot in from there into the site. And being adjacent to the parking island or incorporated into it, it becomes a protected space. But that's not, I mean, are you thinking of all the bicycle parking there, or for the whole site, or? I mean, keep in mind, you have several different businesses going on here. And so
Right.
You probably want to have some, I would suggest have some.
On either side.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm not hearing objection. I think we're comfortable with you working with them to see if you can do something that meets the ordinance and looks safe.
Okay.
Then just one last question. Signage, does signage get discussed at all with this, or is that an entirely separate issue?
Well, we have a sign ordinance.
Right.
And it's usually worked out through that.
So that's a permit process after site plan approval is done.
Okay.
Did you have a particular question?
Well, it's just
Yeah, I was just thinking like, you know, because you have Walmart behind us and others, to have signs in the back of the building.
well, on the ground sign. You
Oh,
wanted,
Oh, for the digital, yeah.
yeah, are digital signs for ground signs allowed?
Well, my suggestion to you is take a look at ordinance, which
Yeah.
we recently updated.
Yeah.
If you've seen, assume you've seen the updated version, because we
Yeah.
just adopted it a few months ago. But I'd take a look at it. I think you'll have what you need in it. It actually increased the size in most cases
Right.
of what's allowed for ground sign, but there are a number of options for signs. I think.
Okay, I didn't see anything about movement or the actual type of signage.
Well, there's electronic message board language in there.
Okay, that's it then for me. Thank you.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I'm looking at I happen to be on the landscaping plan, but I'm looking at the overall plan. I have to admit, I'm not really familiar with either restaurant. I haven't been to one. What proportion of the business is going to be drive-through, and is there a sit-down portion as well? Because you have a lot of parking. I guess you have to because of our ordinance, but it seems like it's set up for assuming that there's a substantial number of people that will be dining in. Is that right?
Leo's is focused more on sit-down dining,
Hmm.
even though the drive-through saved them in Clio, because we built that right when COVID hit.
Through idea for the Coney Island is honestly just came up after COVID.
Yep.
And it's really not a lot of business in drive-through. It's like not even 20% off the sales for the cognac.
And there's like 170 seats in the Leo's.
But
The
it's-
Leo's has a lot of seating.
Right.
Big Chicken is greatly reduced. They're more on the drive-through side. I think we have 34 seats in the Big Chicken.
Hmm.
Yeah, one's more sit down, one's a little more fast food, but they're both excellent. Yeah, I'll get a big discount. No,
I have not had the opportunity to go to Big Chicken, but I have eaten at Leo's, and it is a great, nice place. And it is, as you said, it's more of a sit-down restaurant.
Big
Okay.
Chicken is just a new thing, just came to Michigan.
Hmm.
We started out in February. We extended, we're supposed to build 21 locations.
Does everybody know who the owner is, Big Chicken?
I've seen pictures of a friend here at Shack online, yeah.
Right.
It's coming to the
Yeah.
openings.
It's owned by Shaq.
Oh, really?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Got to meet him. His big hands.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a current plan for the retail space, the two retail spaces?
Be honest with you, no. Like, we trying maybe coffee place, we found maybe a coffee place, and some smoothie place, but it's not final 100%.
Would you be looking to, like, franchise out those yourselves or bring out other people?
No,
to
tenants.
fill those tenants?
I mean, if I could find tenants, then I'd
Yeah.
be more happier. I don't want to do it all.
Little
But
less work.
there's no drive-through service to those spaces, correct?
No. No drive, it was only those.
Two is tough enough to
Sure.
work together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions from commissioners while this is on the floor?
I have a little question, actually, additional question about signage. It's just safety-wise for the new, like, entrance that'll be created on the service drive there, because that'll be opening up access from Bluegrass now. People will be able to cut through and get directly into the Walmart parking lot through there versus cutting out to the stop sign and the lighting system there. So I just wonder what the traffic, if there's been any traffic study kind of should be done on that, as how it'll be affected, being used by the people in the neighborhood, or just what kind of safety precautions we'd have going in as people coming in and cutting into that new entrance there, because that'd be a totally different. My worry would be is that you guys would see a lot of people trying to avoid the red light coming in by cutting through your facility. Not having people that necessarily using it to come in, but just trying to avoid that stop, trying to avoid that red light running into all that, which I imagine you guys wouldn't want.
Well, I don't think the red light there for Bluegrass is the issue, it's the issue on Encore, that's where the line is.
When they're coming out.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
don't
you're
think, it's two lane there, you know, both directions, 4 lanes, so I don't think, at least I don't recall
No, you're
ever
right,
really
you're right,
getting
the
too
north
much
and
traffic
six
on
one
there.
on the side coming out.
Seems like it'd be more of a problem to drive through someone's
Yeah.
parking area than to just go up to the light and go around.
I could see it the other way, coming from the service road to Bluegrass,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because of the light, because that's where
Right.
everybody lines up in queues. I know that people already use the other side of the road to go off onto Mission
right.
to try and circumvent that, right where like the Coles is
Yeah.
on that side. So
Yeah, it is often faster when you're in that area to actually just turn right on Encore and go down to the service drive and come.
oh yeah,
around.
I almost never. Yeah, I always go to Sam's Club because it's so much easier on Encore Drive.
So, I mean, the design, the intent of this one access point, this access point was set aside by the road commission to serve the entire strip of that vacant land. And that's why the cross-access easements are there to connect through. I mean, the design is such that it's not a direct route. It's a very indirect route for people to pass through. So some folks that know might come in and think that they can save a few seconds by cutting through. But it is definitely designed in a way to discourage that.
And I see in the Valvoline
project proposal here, it has an access point too.
Right.
So I imagine as this gets developed more out, we're gonna see more of those coming through on each side, which would reduce the focus I'm trying to use.
I got a question. Do you guys like know when Babylon gonna start like building?
They have a building permit, there's nothing preventing them from starting. They had an easement issue, it was easement related to water, I think. They've gone back and forth on language, but all that's resolved as far as I'm aware, and building permits issued, so they can start whenever they.
Maybe.
Oh, they got it. It's a really beautiful building, both of them. Sam, I will say, Sam is really a stickler for appearances, and I will tell you this, the guy's a stickler to keep clean. I mean, his sites are always, it's almost to a fault. We went through quite a few in these color renderings before we're pretty well set. I think 40 different elevations we did. So.
Very good. Any other questions? Looks like it's in good order, so. So if there are no further questions, we can have a motion.
I move to approve PRES PR 24-04 preliminary site plan dated October 28th, 2024 for Leo's Coney Island Restaurant with a drive-through lane, 2 retail areas and a big chicken restaurant with a drive-through lane on the south side of East Bluegrass Road, west of Encore Boulevard in the southwest quarter of Section 26 and in the B5 Highway Business Zoning District, finding that the site plan can comply with the applicable zoning ordinance requirements for preliminary site plan approval, including sections 14.2.p, required site plan information, and 14.2.s, standards for site plan approval, subject to the following conditions. 1, a land combination boundary adjustment application must be submitted to and approved by the township assessor prior to issuance of a building permit for the project. 2, copies of the final easement document for each cross-access, ingress, egress, easement, and for the new sidewalk along East Bluegrass Road as recorded at the Isabella County Register of Deeds office must be submitted to and accepted by the township zoning administrator prior to the issuance of a building permit for the project. And 3, acceptance of the modification of landscape plan as proposed on the preliminary site plan. Is that adequate language for that?
I think I would just simply add to the last one, per section 10.7 of the zoning ordinance.
Per section 10.7.
Yeah.
Support.
Okay, so the motion was made by Lapp and seconded by Olver. Further discussion? Did you get the last piece?
Yeah, just.
Okay, excellent. So if there's no further discussion, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
All right. Thering,
Yes.
Gross,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Spadrito,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Lapp,
Yes.
Over,
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So,
Good luck.
yeah, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Good luck with it.
We all set, right?
You're all set, thanks.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you so much. And hopefully we do a good job. Maybe I'm proud to be a part of that community here.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So the next item is adoption of the Planning Commission's annual report to the Board of Trustees. Once again, township staff have worked their, I won't even call it magic, just their expertise, and have summarized and listed our annual activity. And so I'll let Rodney say a few words, and then we'll have our discussion.
Well, thank you. This is an item that's mandated by the State Act, asking that you provide a report each year to the Board of Trustees of your activities. I will note one change for this year that we have not done in the past. Of course, we talked about earlier about changes that were incorporated to the site plans as part of the 2020 zoning ordinance update. One of those changes was the addition of this minor site plan process that we talked about before. That basically covers smaller projects, changes to a development that has already received final site plan approval, and certain minor adjustments to that, building additions and that sort of thing. Changes of use are some of the projects that can be approved now administratively by the zoning administrator through this minor site plan process, saving time, saving money for the applicants. That up until this year, we've not noted the minor site plan approvals as part of this report. But really, that change in 2020 had a significant effect on the number of site plans that come to the Planning Commission. Some of these smaller projects used to come to the Planning Commission for site plan approval, and they don't anymore. And so we thought there's value, especially because this particular year, we actually had a pretty high number of these minor site plans. A lot of folks are doing smaller projects, renovations, additions, rather than building new, like the developers tonight. And so we felt it was valuable to note these projects in your report as well. So you see both the items. The first 10 are the items that came to you over the last year, and then the second grouping are those minor site plans, and then the third grouping are other projects that you've been working on. There is one typo that despite multiple people looking at this report before it was put in the packet, I noticed it just today. And that is, it's on page 42 of your report. It's under the minor site plan portion, item number 11. The word preliminary is there, and that word should not be preliminary, it should say minor. So if you would, if you're comfortable with this approving this report to go to the Board of Trustees, you would just make the note with that correction. That I'm happy to answer.
That seems fair. Mm-hmm.
Could I ask a question? Much like your monthly report on what you're doing, it'd be handy to have any of these included are these included in that monthly report when Peter reviews or makes a minor site plan approval? It'd be nice to know when those are, because we wouldn't see them again, but I think it'd be helpful for us to see this information as it's happening monthly.
Generally they are, yes.
Okay.
Again, sort of at first, some of the reports previous years didn't always have the minor site plans. They were treated more like a zoning permit action, like a permit of a sign or something, where we might summarize just general activity. But we have been, certainly over the last year more, have been making sure those items are included in the reports and monthly.
Well, if people are happy with this, we can have a motion to approve the report as presented, or with changes.
With the correction to number 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll move to approve with the correction mentioned. Did you hear me?
Okay. So the motion was by McDonald, second by Hayes, to approve the annual report with the minor correction of item 11, in item 11. Any further discussion? Okay, it's still an official action, so we're going to do a roll call.
Olver,
Yes.
Lamp,
Yes.
Theory,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Gross,
Yes.
Squadrito,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, very good, thank you. And thanks to you both for putting it together. Okay, so those are our new business items, so we'll move on. We've got extended public comment. If there's anybody left who'd like to address the Planning Commission on any item, whether it's on tonight's agenda or not, they are invited to do so at this time. Once again, come to the podium, speak into the microphone, give us your name and address for the minutes, limit your comments to 5 minutes on any issue, Extended public comment is open at 7:59.
There's nobody in the sitting room.
Okay, and again, there's nobody in the electronic sitting room or boardroom. And there's no longer an audience. They were here for the site plan, so seeing none, we'll go ahead and close that back up until next month, closed at 8 o'clock. And then the last is final board comment. So any comments, questions, concerns from commissioners?
Welcome to Commissioner Hayes. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
There's a lot of onboarding. Still got about probably another month's worth of reading to do, but I'm catching up quickly.
He got
I hear
right,
you on that.
right into the action, got his name in the minutes, asked questions, all the good stuff. Let me just ask real briefly, what are we looking for, what are we looking forward to next month? Next month is December, it's the December meeting, so.
So, there are several projects. I'm not sure that really, I don't want to talk specifics on it, but there are several potential site plan application type projects that could come to you. We've been expecting to see them.
Okay.
This was one, frankly, that they had aimed at the December meeting, and we said to them, your plans are in good shape. You go ahead and get them in. And so they actually made an effort to finish up some of the details they need to do and got their plans into you for this meeting. Because we're aware that there may be several potentials anyway that could come to December, so we try to balance it out a little bit. Also, of course, working on master plan, Parks and Rec items, so we're trying to have some of that material to you as well. So we'll balance that. If we do get a lot of applications, we'll move the plan items to January, but we'll have some items for the agenda certainly.
Okay, sounds good.
Will there be cookies?
That's up to you.
Sounds like you volunteered.
Never been to a December Planning Commission meeting, so I wasn't sure what to expect.
Well, I think we have to ask our liaison to the board. Did the board authorize a cookie budget for us this year?
Would they, oh, yeah.
Oh.
That's gonna be a hard no. I think so.
I know one of your fellow committee members sells cookies at the farmer's market every week, so I'm sure she could be talked into.
Okay. Not that they wouldn't like to see something like that, it's just, no.
As a professional fundraiser, one does not get what one does not ask for. So.
Right. 100% of the time.
There is a generous training budget, but not a
But I wouldn't be surprised if some show up now that it was mentioned.
Yeah, no kidding.
Just planting the seed.
Great idea.
Just plant the seed, throwing the line in the.
Okay, well, if any other comments from board members? If not, then we've completed our agenda for November. We'll stand in adjournment till December. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone.
You too.
Yeah, you too.